A very good evening to everyone, and welcome to Sandman Sports. This is, of course, the shows that we have weekly. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, as well as go onto Spotify. And if you have missed the show, you can hopefully join in there as well and listen in. Tonight, we have a very, very bright young female who is going to be joining us. She's going to be telling us her story as to how she got into the act of sportcasting. Unathi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. How's your day been going so far? How's everything?
I think my day's been going okay. Ran a bit of errands, attended one
Mhm.
class. Oh yeah, everything's good. I've just been waiting for 7 o'clock. When 7 o'clock coming? When 7 o'clock coming? So yeah, I'm
Of
super
course,
excited.
it's a 7 o'clock is tea time. It's date time with our clients, as I like to put it. So, just before we go into the nitty gritties of our conversation today, I'd like you to just introduce yourself to our viewers. I know who you are, I know what you're about, but I'm sure they would love to hear ukuthi uNathi Sibeko, Miss US. Ukuthi ngubani?
Okay, so my name is Unathi Sibeko. I am a vibrant 21 years old. I am from Johannesburg and I'm currently a student at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. I am pursuing my Bachelor of Arts degree, majoring in media, and I am the number one sports fanatic out there. Despite the sporting codes, any sporting code you throw me in, I really am like not well knowledge. I know a little bit, but that's me. I'm a huge sports fanatic.
So, being a sports fanatic, you did let us know earlier on that sports was at some point on the cards as your career. So, it's clearly something that you've been interested in. Where did it all start for you?
So initially I was very adamant that I'm going to pursue a career in medicine. Like I was like, okay, medicine is definitely my first choice, and I want to be a physician. I don't care what anybody says. I'm going to be a doctor. So I think how it came about was I went to church and they had like awards evening, so I would always wanted to host one. So I was like, okay, let me just go try my luck in auditions. And I went, I did a byline, and then I left and I kind of forgot about it. So I was like, okay, cool. And they had to come and fetch me at the dinner table. They're like, guys, sister, come on, we're waiting for you. I'm like, oh, I got the part. So I thought, okay, I'm going to have someone, so at least I'll be a little bit more comfortable. But little did I know that I had no one, and it was just me, myself, and I on that stage. And I think what the aftermath of it had me thinking, okay, maybe I should do a career shift. Because at breakfast the following day, someone asked me like, okay, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I was like, well, what do you want to do in terms of like a career? And I was like, oh, I want to be a doctor. And they kind of looked at me like, girl, why? Why?
Way.
Just like, because I wanna do it. And they're like, I, and it was a guy. He was like, I, so porega, so why ungazami radio or something? And I never really thought of entertainment in that way. I know sometimes our thinking is really structured into thinking, okay, if I don't have a good career, if it's not medicine, if it's not being a lawyer, if it's not being an accountant, that job is really not valid. So I hadn't really looked into it, and I thought, okay, eloquence, okay, public speaking, I've done a bit at school, and that's kind of all we're nurtured. And thank my parents in that regard to say, okay, they've groomed me in that aspect. And so I was like, okay, but what's my niche? Like, I don't want to sit there and read the news. I'm not really a political girl. I'm not really into current affairs. And then it dawned on me, sports. So yeah, so it kind of all like kind of sparked. My mom will tell you a better story of that, but yeah, that's where it all started for me.
So obviously you're a marketing officer Lapana AUKZ in Durban Rugby, and you deal with a lot of interaction when it comes to the teams, the players themselves, and obviously putting the UKZ in Rugby name out there. So we just want to understand, do you only deal with the ladies end or you do both male and females?
So I do both males and females. I try and coordinate both males and females, and we've tried over the year that I've been a officer to kind of merge or create some sort of synchronization between both males and females. Because if you don't know, rugby, ladies rugby in KZN is not really big. It's not a thing. So we try and focus some of our resource, some of our attention using the males followings and audience to kind of tap in. Oh, there is ladies rugby at
Yeah.
UK. Yeah.
So obviously you mentioned synchronizing the female and male side of rugby there at UKZN. And what are the challenges that you have faced in that regard? Because for most of our time in the industry, we have always seen that the male or females sporting codes, they kind of have a different identity to each other, obviously for the given fact. But you now speaking about the synchronization and obviously trying to make it one or having the other communicate to the other, what are the challenges that you have faced in trying to do that?
The challenges are many, countless, but I think definitely speaking on women empowerment, more especially in sports. I think over the years, how what coming from someone who's only tapped into the industry, I'm only what a year now, I'm a year on Friday. Coming from someone who's always watched how people sort of organize certain narratives. So regarding women's sports, it's like, okay, I think sometimes we tend to feel so sorry for women's sports, and you're like, oh, shame. Support women's sports, like we're begging to be supported. And I think for me, coming into first of all KZN and doing and introducing the concept of social media, more especially to that was the first challenge, I'd say, like introducing social media as a concept. It's like, guys, you can market and you can push your brand using social. They're like, we hear you, okay, so you're gonna take us a couple of pictures and like stuff. It's like, no, like really getting the word out there to say, okay, what are you guys about? So that's what I came in to do, and I think that was the first hurdle, trying to get people comfortable in the concept of social media management. And also, the second challenge I think I'd face is a lot of pushback, more especially because it's a male-dominated industry. So it's like, okay, so what are you doing here, girl? What are you going to tell us about, like that we don't already know? And so the definitely is there. I think I won't say at like a higher level, but there's a bit of resistance, but it's challenges that when you are working with side by side. So the chairperson of the club is a lady, so it's a female, so it's a chair lady. So you resonate better, more especially if you have people you can kind of lean on or kind of ask questions. And I think having ladies in a space where it's male dominated, it does make it a little bit like the journey makes it a little bit easier for you. Yeah. Well, for me.
There's like you mentioned, there is a lot of resistance when it comes to obviously women coming into a space that has previously been male dominated, but we're seeing a lot of changes, especially in the women's rugby side, and we're in a digital space, obviously.
Yeah.
So media management is so important. Social media presence is so important. Media presence as a whole is highly important because then it puts the teams, on the map and it makes sure that they are presented in a way that is seen by the rest of South Africa. So in your words, what that resistance, what is it that needs to be done? Because you come into the space and they're already asking you, oh, okay, what can you bring to the table? And unfortunately, it's already like they're saying, as a woman, what are you
Mm.
bringing to
Yeah.
the table when
Yeah.
it comes to the betterment of our media presence? So, how do you feel about that resistance and the way that it's seemingly changing?
Okay, let me start with how I've noticed a change. I think people are becoming more open to the idea of women in sports and that it's a thing and that we're here to stay. They're not going anywhere. And so you kind of have to take in the content. You kind of have to watch the sports. You kind of have to watch us play football. And I think over the years, Arsenal attendance, like women's league attendance in Europe specifically, they did amazing numbers for football the last season, which is 23-24 season. And so I think the change is good to watch, more especially if you are, I think for more people who are like ahead of me, I'd say, so the likes of and Fahida who are ahead of me, you kind of have to look back and kind of have to check, oh, okay, it's happening. Okay, so let's keep moving forward. Us really just grabbing onto that baton and kind of saying, okay, we can run with this. Like, okay, thanks, guys. You have done an amazing job. We're going to continue running the show. And it just gives us a little bit more motivation when you guys keep going in that aspect. The second question was, how do I feel about the resistance? I
Mm.
think, yo, um, it's definitely saddening. It's heartbreaking because you're like, oh, but that's not fair. The guys get to
Fair,
be
exactly, exactly.
and you're like, oh, guys. So coming from, I'd say someone who is from Johannesburg, where
Mm.
everything in Johannesburg is
Yes, ma'am.
everything in Johannesburg is literally like we're on a roll. So concepts like women in sports kind of like, okay, cool, yeah, we know, yeah, it's a thing, and you come to an environment where it's dormant and you
Mm.
kind of have to ground in essence, and you have to look for the people who are pioneers or who are championing women in sports and kind of doing it regardless of the resistance. And for me, that's what I did for a better half of last year, is to find people, talk to people, network, and kind of get to understand the environment that we're in. But with regards to the resistance, I think it's just a thing of just keep going, just keep
Yeah.
swimming. Like, is just to keep swimming, because eventually then people will let their guard down and be like, okay, cool, okay, maybe we can. So yeah,
That maybe is a bit saddening. That part is the one where I'm just like, guys,
yeah,
get the program. Women are
yeah.
here and we're saying we're taking over. So I'm gonna bring it a bit back to obviously where you said you were at some point considering going into medicine, which can still be related to sport, you know. So when you were like, no, I want to do media and arts, you know, what is it that made you feel like, okay, medicine is definitely not the one, even though it can be related to sport? And how was it breaking it to your family?
um yo yeah. So I think it definitely was like, okay, cool, I'm going to do this. And then, the thoughts when they did start creeping in, like, okay, girls, you're really gonna do it or not? And how, for me, breaking it to my family, I think more especially my parents, it wasn't hard. I know this is a question that I get very often. It's like, so you went from medicine, now you're gonna do media. What did your parents say? It's not. And I think my parents are my number one supporters. Like, I can't explain it to you. So growing up, I used to play sports. I used to do I stayed foot. I used to do a lot of things. I was that kid that used to come out at 4 and like, no, today I have this Monday. No, tomorrow I have I have soccer, I have netball. So my parents understood, more especially when I said, okay, I want to do media. But my
Mm,
parents, okay, cool. What's your plan? So my parents are those type of people like, okay, so what's plan A? What's plan B? If this doesn't work out, what's plan C? You need to bulletproof. Sound like having a presentation, like organizing that. So they would be they're those type of parents. Like, they want to see which universities, which courses are offering this, which blah 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 blah. But that didn't come with without hurdles. It's not like they sat back. They're like, okay, cool, it's sharp. Go do
mm,
what you say you want to do, because they really wanted to know, they wanted to find out. So, okay, cool, if you're going into the art space and the entertainment space, because we all know it's notorious for a lot of things,
yeah,
go to
yeah,
good and bad. And so I think for me, leaning into sports, not to say sports does not have, it has its own politics like everything else, but it was sort of like a comfort for me. And it was like, okay, cool, this I know. I may not know much about celebrities or what's happening in the Amapiano world, or etc. etc. That's content I like to consume. I like to dance to that content with my two left
yeah.
feet. But sports is my niche, and I know, okay, here, if I know my stuff, no one is going to tell me otherwise. So yeah, that's what's important. Also, I think remaining humble in the journey, and listening to the advices that I was given, by my parents. Say, okay, in as much as you've done a career shift, um, it's not about the glitz and glamour. You need to know your story. So yeah.
What about knowing your story? As women, we're always being judged, or in somewhat our capabilities are looked at as, again, like we mentioned earlier, Uguti, what do you bring to the table? So if someone were to come to you and be like, okay, you're a woman in sport, you are quite versed in the sporting industry already, and if someone wants to know, it's okay, making sure that my presence is felt in the industry, how do you then make sure, obviously, you know your business, you know what you're about, you are factual about it, and your research is on par? Because in the positions that you are in, it's quite important to be factual about the things that you speak about, the things that you post, and also that you relay to the rest of South Africa to see. So how important is it for you to know your story? Because I know there are a lot of people who want to get into sport, right? And the first thing one thinks about when getting into sport is, I'm either going to play or I'm going to be the coach. And
Mm,
there's a whole other side to sport that people don't normally explore. So
yeah.
if we can get into that, that would be great. So what is your niche?
Okay, so my let me start with my niche. My niche, I think, yo, I was a part of. I'm gonna go a little bit and then I'm gonna come back quickly. So I was really honored to be a part of the URC, United Rugby Championship, running for a couple of months, and I'm an alumni now. I've graduated, blah blah blah. But in essence, what I can tell you, what I've grabbed from there is that sports is an umbrella, and under that umbrella we have the coaches, we have the players, we have the broadcasters, we have the scriptwriters, we have the technicians, the videographers, etc., and sort of everything that everyone knows and is kind of familiar with. But then we tapped into different sides, like the legal aspect of sports. How does government come into sports? And we slowly were just like, I think, taking the petals off the rose to say, okay, and then we get to the core saying, okay, I'm a woman in sports, or I am in sports. And it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to be in front of the camera. You don't have to, you can be behind the camera and still be good. I find myself in that. I think I'm enjoying being behind the camera, creating memories, having laughs, and putting together content to say, okay, cool, this is nice, cool. So I think I've always had the end goal, which is going into broadcasting, but I'm also open. I think what this journey has definitely taught me is to be open to learn everything. You must know everything and anything, so that when you get into a position, I think more specifically in sports, what you need to remember is your network, because your network is your net worth. And that's important, because if I know, okay, say I know Fahida is at East Coast, okay, cool, I know Fahida, read the news, blah, 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 blah. But if Fahida wants to take pictures and I want to do video, and there's a position that opens and she says, okay, do you know how to use CapCut, or do you know how to use Adobe? And you're like, because you're so stuck on, okay, me, I want to be in front of the camera, I want to tell the people the score at the end of the game, or etc. So for me, the journey is about being open to learning everything. You must be caught not off guard. You must be caught knowing your story, basically. So yeah, my niche right now, I don't have a specific niche, but broadcasting, okay, being on camera work, okay, cool. But right now I'm really just perfecting my video editing skills, my content creation skills, with social media management. So right now that's like where I'm kind of trying to sharpen my skill. And obviously when opportunities do open up, as the journey continues, then yeah, maybe I'll have a different story for you next week. Who knows?
Yeah, I think what I'm taking a lot from your response and the conversation that we're having right now is the importance of being versatile in sport, and not only being someone who knows just one thing, like you said, like being on camera and giving score updates or team updates, and how important it is to just know a little about everything. And then once it's time for you to then tap into that space, then you learn a lot about it, like how you are working on your video editing skills. Who knows where it could take you one day? Yeah, but so that's really great. I have to applaud you on that, because in sport, if you don't know your ndaba, it's hard. It's hard. It is. Hi guys. So if
Mm.
you just joined us, we are chatting to Unathi Sibeko, who is an aspiring sportscaster. She's with us tonight to tell us her story about where she comes from and how she actually went into sports. So we are on media platforms this evening. We're on Twitter, we are on Facebook, Instagram, as well as YouTube. So on Sandman Sport pages, you can catch us there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment because we like to keep you up to date in the comments. We do see you there. I'd just like to throw one to the screen right now. This is probably going to make you feel so cute, Unathi. And Ufaida is Unathi has done a great job in trying to get the word out there for UKZN rugby, especially using social media. She's a bright young lady and awaits for no one. Great heights are destined for you, and I totally agree. You are seen, you are heard, you are going into the space, and it's about time, we start making those marks and creating that generational legacy. I think it's a conversation we had with Miss Lorna yesterday as well, where how important it is for us not to give up, and I think in the space we are faced with a lot. We are faced with a lot, and it
Yeah,
becomes so much on our shoulders. So I just want to say well done. And you're a foodie.
yeah.
Big foodie,
And-
and you are rugby.
yeah. Hey, salads. What do I say? Salads don't win scrums. Yeah, I that well.
Scrums, madam. They don't win scrums at all. So you mentioned earlier, obviously, when we were speaking about breaking the news to your family or your parents, as per se, as much as they've been a great support system, how important is it to have that environmental support as well to make sure, you see, as much as there are challenges in the space that you're in, but you have the support that you need to go forth, even on those dark days, because when those dark days are there, friends are
True. True. I think yo,
looking for that support.
yeah, I think yeah, I can't stress this enough. I think with everyone, it's important that you have your a couple of people that you can lean on, even if it's your parents. I think most of the time when you're coming out of high school, you're like your parents are like these, I don't know, these people, scary people, and you get to know them like you are, come on, so it's yo. So I just check the comments now, and half most of people that have commented is my family. Those are all my family members. So especially
There.
them. So I think being at school away from home has made me appreciate my family a little bit more, to say, they're not just people who give you money to take Uber to go wherever you want to go, and people who put food on the table. They're actually like human beings, and they have feelings. And once you get to know them, and once you tell them about your challenges, I think it's much better to take on the world, or the things of the world, and kind of face the challenges, because you're like, okay, at home. And as much as young people, we don't want, they call it black text, to say, when they're gonna take my money, I must build at home, hey, there's pressure. But I think for me it's good pressure, because they're only wishing the best for me. And so if I don't want those people to support me, then who do I want? I'm going to seek validation from people outside, and people outside are not here to play. People outside are just like,
It's not
girl,
make sure. It's not make sure.
when are you going? Moving on to the next thing. So for me, it's very important, even with friends, to have that support structure, because it's people that you can bounce ideas off of, like, okay, what do you think of
Yes.
this? And as much as I think for me, what's important is not to find people who are outside of the sporting industry, because we all think alike. We're like, no, but this is a good idea. We are one-minded. We are in sync. And when you look at people who outside of sports and may not know the certain concepts, or what you're even talking about, and you're like, okay, then you explain it to them. It also just keeps you in check as well, to say, do you really know your stuff? Because somebody asks you, like my grandma, for example, like, okay, so manje Instagram me, how does the algorithms work? Like, kind of keeping yourself in check, to say, okay, God, this is Instagram, this is TikTok, this is what it's
Uh,
about. How am I using it? So it keeps me also accountable as well, because there's people who are at home are like, you said you're going to do this. What happened? So those are the
mm.
it holds you accountable in as much as they are there as your support structure. But for me, well, that's what's key. And they also keep you humble to say, okay, remember where you have come from. Yeah.
Oh, that part of remembering where you come from is so important because I think you did mention earlier, Uguti, the glitz and the glam in this industry, whether it be sports and entertainment or just sport, it becomes a lot. And a
Mm.
lot of people get lost, whether you are an athlete, you're a coach or whatnot, the minute you get that big check and
Yeah.
you're in front of people and you're exposed to the celebrities that are in the space, see, boom, Mr. Sellers don't win scrums. And then it's like, oh, okay. I've been learning about you all my life, and now that you're here, don't get distracted. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think also what I do want to pick your brain at is a matter of association. Yeah, but how important is it for you to keep people around that you are, like you said, able to bounce off energies off of, and just ask them, it's okay, this is an idea that I have and I want to do one, two, and three about it. How important is it to make sure the people around you are not only those that will push you, but they are able to give you that advice that you need, that are in the space, and the mentorship, because I feel like that part is also very important so that they prepare you for the outside world because kuyabanda ngaphandle guys.
Hey, it's
Hayi
cool.
kuyabanda. Hayi
Right.
kuyabanda. 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 Yeah.
um. So I think for me, I struggled a bit finding someone who is in the space. One, someone who I resonate with to say, okay, they've kind of walked a similar journey. And my mom has always stressed the importance of mentorship, and getting someone who is in the industry who can kind of guide you, and not someone who to say, okay, don't make the same mistakes I made, not someone to make you a.
Mm.
And what's important is I have to actively seek out mentorship because everyone else ahead of me is busy. And as much as they're happy to offer advice, but I also need to know my story. So importance of association for me, I think I've found Fahida. Fahida and I we've been chatting back and forth. She might not be on her phone all the time, and we chat after 2 months like, oh, updates, I'm here with this and that. And I think for me that I'm good. I'm good with the one or two people. You know, you don't want to have too many people pouring into you, or
Yes, yes, yes.
you know, you just need to be saturated to say, okay, here, filter your thoughts. I'm going to work with this person and that person, and I kind of see, okay, this is going okay, and also just trusting the process. Um, it's not it's not by my own might that I'm here. You know, God is always just whew, like, okay, I give you Fahida. Okay, you need this, I give you this mentorship. You wanna do this, okay. So for
There
me,
you
not
go.
so you must not. I think for me it's not relying more or less on my own strength or my own doings. Yes, I go out there and I network and I'm on LinkedIn every 2 days and I'm like, oh hey, I'm reaching out, da, 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 blah blah blah. But it's God that opens those doors for me to be able to connect to people in the different spaces, because sometimes like you said, it's rough out there and people's doors are closed and they don't really want to let you in. So I think
Sure,
one
guys.
um Mutsidisi Mohono shared is that
Yes, my
yeah.
lady.
So the door, I think she shared about her story, her journey, being a woman, more being a black woman then in the industry, then when it was very foreign to be a black woman in sports in rugby, you know, it was a thing
Mm,
that
mm,
yeah. So she shared on how, you know, she has opened that door and it has come with a lot of things. She didn't know what was in there, and it has come with a lot of things, but her duty every day when she wakes up is to keep that door open for the next girl to come in, and for it not to be hard, you know, and for the next girl to not sit at a table where maybe it's all male dominated, and maybe it's the supervisor, whoever comes in, and they walk in and they greet everybody else and then they skip you and then
mm, mm.
so it's breaking those barriers, bit by bit. And I think it's with the association and the acquaintances that I do have that I'm able to stand and say, okay, cool, it's possible. So yeah.
That is, I think it's very powerful to keep on thinking that it's possible because, like we said, it becomes a lot in this space because we are constantly having to prove ourselves,
Yeah,
and I'm grateful to we have leaders such as Ufahira, like you've been mentioning. We have the Mutsidisi Mokonos, we have Ms. Cass Naidi from G Sport, which you
yeah,
have also been a part of, just to
yeah,
hint out there to our viewers. Talking about then G Sport for Girls, their platform is very powerful.
yeah.
They reach out to athletes who are in various sporting codes, and while you're just answering this one, I'm going to bring the team on just in case they also have questions. So,
Okay.
just talk about your experience with G Sport for Girls and how much of a platform it is that makes sure that sports, not only in South Africa, is broadened and it's unearthed. Those stories that don't normally get told by the big broadcasters, and
Mm,
they're actually doing that. So, how was your experience with them while I bring on the team?
okay. So I speak briefly about my experience. So I found out about G Sports. I think I'd watched one show, one awards evening that was broadcast on a very long time ago on Super Sports.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I tapped into, so when I was working out my journey, I was like, okay, so I need to be exposed to platforms where I'm able to learn about women's sports. And that was when I was still a volunteer last year for UKZN Rugby.
Mm-hmm.
And then I read about G Sports and I'm like, okay, this is cool. And I went to go follow them on my own personal page. And then I was like, okay, let me post something. Let me see if they are still there. And they reposted that. And I was like, okay, cool, they are alive. So let's rock and roll. And so platforms or my experience at G Sports, which is a very short span, writing 2 or 3 stories about
Mm-hmm.
high school and sports in high school. And I love the initiative of exposing or unearthing talent, like you said, of girls out there. And there's a lot of girls that don't really get covered necessarily by the likes of Super Sports, or your big radio stations, or your other broadcasters, etc. So that for me is an initiative that needs to keep going, and it can only keep going if we pour into them and we really do take in their content. And they have an awards evening coming up soon, and I know nominations are open, so if you know anyone in the sporting industry who fits the various
Mhm.
categories, be sure to like nominate them. You never know. You nominate Fahida here.
Wena phela unathi.
So you nominate this, and you must nominate the people. You must nominate the people. So yeah, so definitely. I'm sorry I had to put you on blast there. I'm sorry.
So to our viewers, a very warm welcome to Sandile and Fahira, who have joined us this evening in our chat with Unathi. Of course, we are just revisiting her story and her experience in the sporting industry, and of course, breaking the barriers that are existing. So they are going to hop on and have their 2 cents. Na ke re ke 5 rand, bona ke di 2 cents ne. Yeah, yeah.
Gosh,
So they're gonna come on and share what they need to share. Unati, feel free to also ask them questions because as much as you are our guest, they also have some things in the closet there that you must ask them about. You check. So then to make sure with hey, we see you are actually doing the things to be done. Yeah, well, so welcome to Faida and Usandile.
hello.
Hello, everyone. First of all, well done, Unathi, for continuously working hard and making a noise and being the word in Afrikaans is lastig. I don't know what
Yeah.
that word is.
Yeah.
You're not
It's just
afraid to be lastig. You're not afraid to be lastig, and I think that's what's gotten you here, and it's gotten you all the opportunities that you've had. You've had the privilege of writing, of being a commentator for some of the super sports schools, rugby tournaments at the stadium. Um, what have you not done at this young age of yours? And I think that just speaks to your hunger of wanting to become something great. So congratulations and well done to that. I think that I I don't have questions. I think I'm just more astounded at at, at your growth and your work and your efforts on this journey. And I see you in front of that camera with that S. Perhaps with other S's overseas. Um,
Yes.
no, I'm part of this S. She's here. She's here. She's
Oh,
part of
and
the team.
yes. Oh, come on.
But I mean,
Stop.
the big leagues. There's a bright future, and it's very difficult to get in. Spoo's raised some questions here on the side. He's asking, what do you think of the impact that Carol Shabalala and Melissa Reddy have had for South African media, especially seeing as they are South African and of color. And I think
Yeah.
that's a very important question that is sort of thrown into the works, because it is women of color that's breaking the space. It started quite some time ago. The likes of Cass Naidu in cricket, the
Yeah.
Motsidisi Monos in the rugby space, the Karashabalalas in the football space, the Julia Stewarts and Melissa Reddy's in the football space. And of course, I'm sure that's a path you'd like to follow sooner than later.
Mm, mm.
Um, sure. That's a very good question there by Songoma. And I think Melissa Reddy, I found out about Melissa Reddy a couple of years ago, and I was like, Haibo, she's South African. I was actually watching I think Premier League TV, and I was watching with my brother, and so he tells me that she's South African. I'm like, guy, he can't be, no ways. And I actually had to go do my research. I'm like, oh, he's right. I never really got back to him about him being right, but I was like, okay, let's
Now you
go.
have to go back to him and tell him that he was right. You owe
Yeah.
it to him.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, let's come and let's, what did you whip out? And so I had to, really do my research. I'm like, oh guys, it's possible. So I really was not familiar with broadcasters abroad. I used to watch them and say, okay, cool, girls, go girl. How Amandla to the power to the people. So I was like, okay, cool. But I had to do my research and learn about the Melissa Reddy's and also Julia Stewart recently. I was like number one in the comments, like, yes, we are doing it one South African at a time, one woman at a time. And so, the impact that they've made, I'll get to Carol because Carol is like her own,
She's
brand,
her
her
own entity, dog.
girl. Is that
Like
girl. It's
literally.
everyone's dream. Like, I think Carol Shabalaya, like, yo, my
Yeah,
dreams,
yeah.
my wallpaper
Yeah.
somewhere. I want to be like you, kid. I think she has definitely she's made a huge impact. Like, it may not be on the global television and broadcasters and shows. It may not necessarily be on Blast on Sky Sports, like Carol Shabalala, Sky Sports, blah blah blah. She may not have that to her name, but what she's done in South Africa is alone, as a country alone, that's just carrying South Africa on their back, and she has to be commended for that. And she taps into the global space here and there, but she is a powerhouse, and
Mm.
there's a to learn. I think most people only see the end product and they don't know the hours that you guys go through, perhaps, of writing when you have a creative block and you're like, but I need to get, and your manager's telling me tomorrow.
Yes, guys.
Okay, but I can't think. Okay, I can't get it together, and they don't know the hours that you guys, maybe you go to the stadium. Everybody goes to the stadium, watch the Springboks or watch the Sharks. Everybody goes home, and you still have to sit there and listen there to the press conference and what they say. And you must still take notes. You must still remember the score. You must remember who scored the try. You must remember. You must have all of this running in your mind.
That,
And
yes.
yeah, and you're leaving the stadium at 2 a.m. and you have to wake up tomorrow. There's another event, and you get there in the KZN media group. Guys, please RSVP for Media House. And they're sending you all of this, and your brain is constantly running. And in as much as, you guys need to be commended for that. So let's just, you guys need to be commended because people do not know
Cute.
the
Unathi
work
is so cute.
that goes into putting these stories out there so that by Monday morning people know that, okay, Pirates lost to, well, which has never happened this season, come on, but Pirates lost to Kaizer Chiefs. won't happen. I promise it won't happen. But for people to for people to sorry, that's some hearts there. But for people to have the breaking news on Monday, it takes a lot out of someone, and you're only one person. So
Mhm.
I went like this. I'm coming back now. But the likes of Carol Shabala and Melissa definitely putting the girlies on the map, and also the guys as well. You know, we mustn't leave out the guys, but definitely putting them on the map to say, guys, it is possible. You can do it.
If Pandile is part of the guys, we can leave him out just for a bit. You get
Oh,
maybe two
yeah.
seconds in here, and that's telling Nazi moment yet, guys. Yeah, born and length, but
Same, but I feel sorry because he's always taking hits. Ah, man, I'm sorry. I'm so
now
sorry.
it's three against one. At least at some point it's gonna get even. Maybe not. But I think he does have something to say, so we're gonna give him his platform. We're gonna give him his time to shine on our show. By the way, thank you very much.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start. Like, but my hello to everybody. That's my first thing. Is hello to everybody that's here joining us tonight. To our lovely guest. Listen, ma'am, I've been sitting in the background listening to your story. I'm lost for words. Like, for once, Faida and Mo know I always have something to say, but for once, I actually have nothing to say or ask. Like, I'm amazed at the things that you've done so far, and yeah, like I have nothing to say but to say keep on going. Like that's for me to you, and to have you on our platform goes a long way. Like it really goes a long way. You know, I'm just honored to have you here. Sorry about that, guys. I'm honored to have you guys here today. Like and for you to tell your story and just be open about it, it goes a long way. And it is your guys' show. Like I'm not gonna more
Yeah.
it's for the ladies. uh, and again, Unathi, the ladies obviously in the show today, they know how big I am on women in sports, not just on the field but off the field. Like we gotta look after the women's, man. Like they make it happen for us, and to have you here tell your story, I'm honored to listen to your story, never mind share a screen with you. But that being said, um the big question that I probably have, not a big question, but a question that I'll probably pose to you is that you obviously mentioned Fi having been a mentor, and Fi, no discredit to you, fam. You know I love you lots. She's done a lot in her space. She's achieved a lot. How do you where do you see yourself probably in the next 3 years? Um, where do you see yourself in which sports that you feel that you'll be able to dominate and own and say, yes, I, as Unathi Sibeko, I own the sport, and this is a sport that is my niche, is my place to be at.
So, contrary to popular belief, I am going to be in the football space. That is my niche. Like, ask me about Man United. I even know the kit right now for the 25th season. Like, ask me about Paris. Ask me about football. I am your girl. But what I was,
Between you
like
and
I
I,
said
it's
earlier,
staggering. You and I united. We're here. We're together. We're together. Continue, my
this
sister.
is amazing.
Sorry,
So I
Gabo.
for me, in as much as I'm in the rugby space right now, but like I mentioned earlier, I want to know everything. One thing we do at home is we watch all the sports. Like right now, Olympics, we are feasting at home because we're going to be watching gymnastics, we're going to be watching tennis, we're going to be watching blitzbox, we're going to
Mm.
be swimming. I one thing, like people are like, but you don't know anything. How is it that you know everything about everything? And like you watch and you learn things and you're like, okay, cool. This is how tennis works. Okay, 15, 80, 40. All right, break points. You get that. So for me, I think and as much as I'd like to say football, because football is my first love. With any sport that I'm given, I think I am so open to learning. More especially because I grew up a kaya, but you need to make yourself liquid. You need to make yourself when you get into a situation or when you find yourself, when they say netball tomorrow, you're giving you a job 10,000, 5,000, 2 rand. We are going to netball, or they say golf, for example, and you're like, yo, and you still need to. You mustn't at the Zell. You mustn't be found shaking. You must know your stuff. So I think for me, yo, guys, football, nah. And I'll come back to this recording, and I'm gonna clip this recording and say football. I was there. I was never found shaking. There's some really great broadcasters out there, like your Leratos and your Tatos, and that you always see, as well as your Lindiwes. So for me, yo, guys, yeah, ne?
Football more, because I think just yesterday we had an article from obviously Ujanin just highlighting how women's football in South Africa is progressing, but at the same time we're at a point where we are still having that conversation. Gore, re kopa ditjhankura. Yabo. So it's yo guys, I'm sure a lot of people are tired of hearing this us go constantly going back to women need to be sponsored.
Yeah,
Women's teams need to be, given that extra boost according to their results and what they do. So what is it that you have to say on that? Because yeah, we're moving forward as South African women in football as well, but there's still that gap between football and sponsorships, or football and corporate, because we do know that corporate does put in a lot of money or sponsorship when it comes to amateur teams, but we're still struggling with that. Why do you think is that?
yo, I think I had this conversation with my dad or my grandma, one of them,
Yeah.
and we spoke about how, hey, tjhelete bathong, we took the money for the and elevate. And the conversation was really, and I'm going to go quickly here, is just about how teams, for example, you in abroad, you have Man United women and then you have Man United men. Why can it not be that we have Orlando Pirates women and Orlando Pirates men? Like, have they tapped into that concept to say, guys, this is Sundowns are doing really well in that aspect, but then you
Mm,
don't
mm,
competition because now you have to go outside, you have to go overseas and go play with teams overseas when there are ladies who, you know obviously at university level, like right now we do know that varsity disc is on and it's for both males and females. And I think obviously go a little bit back on the scale to say, okay, at school level, do we have sports, do we have football rather for girls in schools, in public schools?
mm,
Yes, private schools, I know private schools have but underprivileged schools, and we tap into the conversations that people don't necessarily want to have. They are uncomfortable. No, we don't talk about that here. We don't talk about not having football in public schools, etc. But then you have to ask, then you get people like me and you ask, why have you not tapped into spaces like that? Going to the teams that we see in top flight, why do you guys not have a women's team? And we,
mm, mm,
in a sense that we have adopted, obviously we've adopted the style of play and how to do football from abroad and European leagues, and then now the MLS, etc. But then those teams, obviously, doesn't it's not going to happen overnight. There's something we must not be naive to, that it's not going to happen overnight. But are these conversations being had amongst the likes of Supersport, amongst Amazulu, for example, like, much closer to home? Are we having these conversations with them to say, guys, have you ever thought about it? Because in that way, then you create a whole, I don't know, a hoorah about it. So you create a tornado, for a lack of a better word, about these types of discussions. Because
yeah, yeah.
Betway has now taken over as sponsors for the PSL for the 23-24-26 season. So now we go to DSTV and you're like, DSTV, do you want to take on a sponsorship for the ladies or start a ladies league, etc. I know Hollywood Bets had the women's league. I might not have the right name for it, but having these conversations is the starting point, is to have these conversations and not make it a thing of, hi, we don't talk about it. So yeah, Money is needed, but yeah.
Okay, Sandile, you threw your hand up first. Let's hear what you have to say this time.
Wow. Look, okay. Yeah, I'm enjoying this. What one Bravo versus Three Ladies tonight is actually a fun show. We must do this often.
No, we already won against you. Sorry, sir. We don't do that here. We don't do that here.
Okay, okay, okay. Outside all outside that conversation, I just wanted to find Unathi, in terms of, obviously, your journey is still an early journey in the sportscast and sports media
Yeah.
space. What do you think, having just got into the space, what do you think as sports media personalities, or peoples in the space and brands in the space, what can we do different, mainly to uplift and enhance women in sports or female sports teams in South Africa? How can we make it be visible or seen by the people? Because we only know about the TNL when TNL happens in the second half of TNL. For example,
Mm-hmm.
we only
Yeah.
watch women's football when we in the quarterfinals for
Yeah.
WAFCON or the World Cup, and how can we as media personalities or media peoples and brands be able to showcase the world that, guys, we can also watch it at domestic level?
Yeah. I think, let me think. I want to start my
Absolutely.
response.
Absolutely.
But you know when when you're in I don't know, when you're inside the party and the disco lights are discolizing and the music is music, you don't even care about the people who are outside. So now that I am in the space as media personality, all I ever see, or I actively choose to consume content which is regarding women and sports, like I want to know. And I think what you do with your platform, or what you do with your following, is very important. The people consuming your content must not know that, okay, you support only Pirates and Man United, blah blah blah, but they must know that, okay, you are for women's sports. So it's actively every day, consciously, unconsciously, having to put out the women on blast, to say there is also a woman, and no, we are not sorry. It's like, oh, sometimes I feel like when we do speak about women's sports, it's a sob story. It's like, oh my god, blah blah blah. But we need to be able to come onto platforms like this, for example, and be empowered to say, no, guys, we are strong. Yes, you don't watch us, it's fine. But see, we are strong, and we need you guys to just pour a little bit into. So, like we said earlier, people are slowly starting to simmer into the fact that women's sports is a thing. So yeah, just it's something that you need to do continuously, just putting it out there on your platforms, informing people, having platforms like this where it's 3v1. Messi's going to win here, Ronaldo out, you know so yeah.
Alright,
Okay.
alright.
So, I could almost see. I mean, I'm here for this, guys. I am here for this. I am here for this. So I'm gonna throw on Usbusi. So Ungcobo, him and I like arguing a lot. So if that happens on the live today, I would like to beforehand apologize for Unathi, what you're about to witness. I swear and promise that it's very entertaining. Nay. So when he has something to say, uzomuza nje ukuthi uzokhuluma kanjani. But I'm very grateful for conversations that we are having like this, obviously with Miss US, ne, because they give us a good lead that the future of sports broadcasting is looking very bright and energetic, as I can see, as we all can see. Welcome, Smooth. See, he's already shaking his head. He's
Three
already
versus
shaking
two.
his head
Three
because
Get
he
versus
ready,
two.
get
knows.
ready, get
You
ready.
know what I'm trying to say? So yeah,
What's up, guys?
Spy had her hand up. I'm gonna throw it to you, Faida.
Yeah, I think Onati answered my question, because my question was quite similar to Sandile's question, just with regards to how do you bridge the gap between the world and women's sports. Um, and then just to touch on what you spoke about earlier, I think you made a good point in talking about football and just how accessibility seems to be still an issue, um, especially in the developmental phases, for people or youngsters who are coming from schools, who are coming from underprivileged backgrounds. And just to compare my experience to that, I think in high school especially, I had access, in primary school as well, we had access um, to football as young girls. And then we had the opportunity to compete with other girls from other schools. And
Mm.
the problem that I see now that I obviously haven't seen then was that we weren't competing against girls or schools that came from areas emakai,
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and those are the schools, and those are the people who are struggling to find that access, and where talent is not being sort of groomed, if you will, at that stage. And it's a very crucial part. We see it in rugby, for instance, where we have Grand Como Week, we have um, the Craven Weeks, the under 16s and under 18s. Both women and men at those ages are competing high level rugby. In my experience as well with school sports, you see it, but there's a massive gap um,
Mm.
in not just football, but I think sports as a whole at that level of grassroots for the
Mm.
underprivileged. So that's a solid point that you made earlier. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we see your face there, sir. Welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? Everyone good? How's your
Hi,
anniversary?
we're good.
I'm well, guys. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I've been on the show for like from the beginning, and I've been able to listen to your amazing story, Unathi. I mean, like what Sandy said, man, it's amazing to be like, what you have done, what you've achieved so far, and especially at this very early stage. It's really amazing. But you guys said a lot, hey? You guys said a lot. But firstly, Sandy, I'm not here for you, brother. I'm here for Unathi. I apologize
Yeah.
for that. I'm not here to
Sorry.
defend you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
um, so one of the reasons why I asked the question about Melissa, it was like you said, they've had like a very impactful career so far. I think one of my comments was, "Oh, Carol alone has become a brand herself." You know,
Yeah.
I feel like also every single person in whatever industry they go into, they don't want to be associated with the company. They want the company to be associated with them, with their
Yeah.
name in some respect. So with the
Mm.
Faida wants people to say she's Faida from East Coast. She doesn't want people to say she is East Coast, East Coast is Faida for in
Okay.
that respect.
Mm.
Where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself basically also one day having people going and walking and being on some, you know what, she is the one to open doors for us to be where we are, especially as women educated in wherever you end up going
Mm.
one day.
Yeah. I think I can only dream, wish, work hard, and do this and do that. But for me, yo,
I
I
mean, I mean, everyone wants to be seen as an individual. Me and myself right now, I prefer being an individual than being a collective, you know, because, it's all about the brand. We are, like you guys said earlier, we are in the results industry, and the results you put out kind of sets you aside from everyone else.
mm, mm. I think I I I pray that I make the most impact with wherever I'm placed eventually.
Hmm.
And I do want my name to be associated with the likes of Sky Sports and ESPN and UEFA Champions League, etc. But I can only wish, dream, and work hard. But if the opportunity is not for me and I won't show there on Sky Sports, it's fine. If I won't show on Super Sport, that's fine. But with whatever wherever I am placed, I think making the most impact, leaving a mark, and more especially for me, I think in the industry or whatever space I'm a part of is to leave someone behind me. Like I don't want to go like we'll speak like where I am right now. Because I don't want to
Mm.
go if maybe social media management for rugby and the page is dormant. Then I haven't really done my job because I need to leave some. I need to pass the baton on to else. There need to be an impact to say, okay, maybe you can shape up and you can take over. I really think that's where I am, and I think where I'll say being a baby in the industry right now, I'm in a position where you're just in awe of what people are doing. Sometimes people think they need to be at Supersport, for example, because we're South African. We need to be a Supersport to be someone in sports, to be this household brand name, or working on SABC Sports or etc. When you don't know the impact that you make with wherever that you are, so it's just a reminder to people that wherever you are placed, do the best that you can, because you never know who you might impact. And I think if you love what you do, and then you do what you love, I think for me that's what's important, because I can be on Supersport and be miserable, but when
Hmm.
I go for Sandman Sports here, I am living my best life. So I think, yeah, that's what's important for me, is also just remaining humble and doing the groundwork. I think sometimes people associate Supersport with having made it in life, like, yo, you've made it in life. So I think just you need to remain humble in your journey, to say, okay, Supersport, I'm here, I'm working, it's another milestone. I'm not staying, we are continuing with the journey. So yeah, that's my
Mojo.
parting.
Yes. Humble. Mojo. Humble. Humble. Mojo.
Do this
Is it
tonight. Like, can we
humble?
not do this tonight, please? Please, please.
But yeah, like you've had, honestly, like I said, man, you've had like a great story, and it's great to meet you finally, by the way. I mean, Umoko didn't want me to be on the show. It was among Z when you're from the jump. I'm just saying. But anyways, that's that's
Okay.
my
Ingakengijikijekile
five.
until the
But
show ended. Until the show ended. I should have just followed my instinct because I knew. I knew
I'm
it.
joking. But Unathi,
But
thank you for having me, guys.
yeah, Unathi, it's been a great time. Obviously, because of time, we're going to need to cut it off a bit for tonight. But to our guests, to our viewers as well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's always amazing just having these conversations, with special guests. Of course, we had Umasu S this evening, Unathi Sibeko, who is an aspiring sportcaster. She joined us on the new SS in town. That's going to be the household name, by the way. Just throwing it out there. She said it herself. Yeah, I'm trying to say she said it herself. Thank you very much. But we're going to be back again next week with more shows, with more inspiring guests. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is going to be a jam-packed one. So be sure to follow, like, comment, and share. We are on Facebook, Instagram, as well as YouTube, and we are unearthing untold stories because this is what we love. But from the team and I, we are going to wrap it up here tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye.
Guys, that is so cute. I think I'm going to get that part and just make sure it's the one that's going to be the SS welcome. But again, thank you, and we shall see you next week.
Bye, guys. Sheesh.